Well, it was bound to happen. Seeing as how my last video was about my concerns for the Mario movie, it made sense to make a video actually talking about the movie itself. And so that's what I did recently. And I wore this exact same t-shirt to the theater on that day. Come on, don't be mad at me. I don't have a Mario shirt in my closet. And maybe if you can point out some good shirt ideas for me, you can leave it in the comments below. But anyway, yes. The Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, I went to see this last week, and so I want to just go ahead and talk about my thoughts on it. There will be some spoilers. I'm not going to spoil too much. I will talk about some things that did bother me during the movie, but that those might be some spoiler-heavy things. But as a whole, we'll just start from the top and work our way down. We'll start with the plot summary. So, the Mario Brothers movie, as you probably have guessed if you've watched the trailers, is about the Mario Brothers going to the Mushroom Kingdom and helping Princess Peach fight back Bowser from invading. Who exactly are the Mario Brothers? Well, the movie starts off in Brooklyn, and they're plumbers trying to open their first plumbing business, the Super Mario Brothers Plumbing. And as you'd expect from a movie that's focused on a hero's journey, the business does not go well, and it doesn't seem like it's going to last. Until one day there is a flood in Brooklyn, and so the Mario Brothers decide that they're going to help out by going into the sewers instead of staying on the street like all the other plumbers. And that's where, in the sewers, they find a whole bunch of pipes and this little green one that conveniently leads them to the Mushroom Kingdom. Well, that's where Mario heads, actually. Luigi gets sent to Bowser's castle. And so Mario meets Toad and Peach and decides to ask for their help in rescuing Luigi. And he also, in turn, will help them fight off Bowser. Now, as I stated in my last video, I was kind of excited for this movie, largely because it looked very pretty and it looked very colorful and very Mario-ish, I should say. But I was also concerned about, voice acting and other problems with it too. And I'm happy to report that the voice acting is not that bad. Chris Pratt as Mario was, he was Chris Pratt. That's all I'll say. There were some parts in the beginning where he did kind of have a whine in his voice, and it did at first sound like Mario. And I would have liked for him to continue that kind of trend where he gets a little bit high in his voice, but he still kind of maintains an English voice. Sadly, though, throughout the rest of the movie, he just sounds like Chris Pratt. It's every time you hear Mario talk, I couldn't help but think that's Chris Pratt's voice. That being said, though, Mario wasn't unlikable. He was still a fun character, and it was still fun to watch him go on this little adventure in the Mushroom Kingdom. Peach was good. I kind of liked Anya Taylor-Joy's performance. Toad was funny. He wasn't annoying, even though he very much could have been. Charlie Day as Luigi was also good. You can tell in the movie that Charlie Day was trying to be Luigi from the games, unlike Chris Pratt as Mario, who didn't seem to give much effort. Not hating on Chris Pratt, just saying that's how I perceived his vocal delivery. But Charlie Day was fine as Luigi. I did not hate him. The big standout in this movie was 100% Jack Black as Bowser. Man, I loved Bowser in this movie. He was funny, he was ferocious, he was everything you would expect Bowser to be. And he was like probably the best character, in all the chemistry that he has with his assistant Kamek. That was also fun to watch as well. There's also a lot of other stuff in the movie that's good too. Like, the worlds is very much feels like it's in a Mario game setting. Like, there's the Mushroom Kingdom. There you can see some Yoshis, even if they're in passing. There's items scattered everywhere, like banana peels and fire flowers and mushrooms. Yeah, I like what they did with mushrooms in this movie. Like, they gave Mario sort of this small arc where he grows to just get used to mushrooms, because in the beginning of the movie he's shown to not like mushrooms, and I thought that was a neat touch. I brought some originality to the Mario scenario that we're so used to seeing in the games. It's also a very busy world, I should say, especially in the Toad Town. Like, there's stuff happening in every nook and cranny. It feels like the setting is never boring. It feels like something is always going on. It is a very vibrant and colorful setting, I will say. Especially the Kong Village is very cool to look at. Bowser's Castle is very awesome. Even New York City, where they start off, that's a very cool setting as well. The score is also very good. It's a very orchestral, version of all the Mario scores you're used to hearing, like the usual that gets its own orchestral mix during the film. There's also neat little scores that you'll hear throughout the movie that honestly I was not expecting to hear. You know, like the cave theme that you hear in the games often. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. That's also played during the movie. And there's just little nuances in the movie that are callbacks to references are welcome, and they don't feel super on the nose. But I will get back to references in a bit because that is something I want to talk about later. But it was still fun to see. This was overall, I would say, a fun movie. Even the kart section was fun. Even though it doesn't really feel like a Mario Kart race, it feels more like a Mad Max scene that's toned down for children. It was still a fun watch. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was everything that Illumination did to try to match the Mario world. They did an excellent job of that. Now, I will say, though, this movie is not perfect. I want to start first and foremost with Donkey Kong. I don't think Seth Rogen's voice was good. It was kind of grating. It was fun to watch him bounce off of Chris Pratt's Mario, but as a whole, it just felt off-putting to hear Seth Rogen's voice come out of Donkey Kong. I mean, at first glance, it just fits. It's all right, I'll admit, but as a whole, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong is just not ideal. It's not the kind of voice actor I would put to the character. Also, Cranky Kong is not Donkey Kong's father. He's his grandfather. That's how it is in the Donkey Kong Country games. The only time he's ever mentioned as his father is in Donkey Kong 64. How, Nintendo, did you miss this important piece of lore? I thought you were keen on Mario lore, and yet you decided to just use the one time that Cranky Kong was Donkey Kong's father in one game and decided to apply that to a movie that's going to be reflective of the game franchise as a whole. How could you miss this, Nintendo? Anyway, excuse me, I'm being nitpicky. Let's also get to the more important stuff in this review for the movie. I'm not sure who the blue toad with glasses is. I don't know if he was meant to be Toadsworth, Peach's right-hand man, but I kept thinking back to Toadbert, who was a character in the Mario RPG series. I liked him. He was fun. Now, the last positive I want to point out is that this movie was surprisingly funny. There were some bits of dialogue and gags that kind of caught me off guard, and I couldn't help but chuckle. Especially a scene with Luigi and Bowser. That was a good one. Now, sadly, as I've said before, not everything works in this movie. And I want to start off first and foremost with the character of Bowser, like his plan regarding Peach. I don't necessarily think that marrying Peach was the best kind of plan for Illumination to pick for him, because this is a subplot that was used in one of the later Mario games that came out like 6 years ago now. Wow. It feels recent. Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. For Mario games for a long time, Bowser's just always captured Peach, and the whole objective of the Mario games, no matter what setting or the gameplay style was, you always have to go rescue the princess. But with Super Mario Odyssey, Nintendo decided to add in this subplot of Bowser marrying Peach, or forcing her to marry him, I should say, and that added some stakes to the game, and it made it feel like after all this time, like there was a reason Bowser was going to have Peach in his clutches. But for this movie, with that in mind, it kind of felt a little rushed to suddenly have Bowser's instant motive for trying to get Princess Peach is to just marry her, and I felt it was a little off-putting. That being said, though, the movie seems to be aware of this and does take the time to actually make fun of it. Like there's a scene where Koopas question Bowser's motive for marrying Princess Peach, and they're all just standing there like, well, what if she doesn't like you back? And there's just a funny exchange of dialogue, and yeah, it was pretty silly. It's reassuring because I think Nintendo knows that this plot is a little silly when acted out on the screen, so I'm glad they were aware of that. Something I think they are not aware of was the connections between the characters, and this was a surprising problem I wasn't expecting of catching, but a lot of the major relationships that should be there, that should be strong for the characters, kind of feel a little flat and weak. And especially between Mario and Luigi. Because in the beginning, Mario and Luigi's bond, it does feel brotherly. Like, it feels like they do support each other. But as soon as Luigi is sent to Bowser's castle and Mario goes to the Mushroom Kingdom, Luigi just gets captured by Bowser's minions, sent to Bowser's castle, interrogated by Bowser, and then just stuck in a dungeon for the rest of the movie. Until the ending, of course. Really, I feel like this is a missed opportunity because Luigi could have played such a big role in this movie, in my opinion, if they had not kept him in that dungeon. Like more scenes of him getting scared, like in the forest. He could have done something other than just being stuck in a dungeon. That was kind of a one disappointing detail. And the reunion between Mario and Luigi just at the end just feels kind of forced and a little just kind of haphazard, and something they have to make happen. I've already mentioned the enmity between and the disconnect between the Bowser marrying Peach, but what about Bowser's enmity with Mario? Well, in the movie, it kind of gives off the sense that Bowser doesn't like Mario because he's jealous that Peach likes him more than Peach likes Bowser. And so that too kind of feels a little silly. Like, shouldn't Bowser hate Mario for thwarting his attempts to take over the Mushroom Kingdom? When you see it in the movie, the reasons for Bowser hating Mario just feels a little fluffy. And I know this is mostly supposed to be like a kid's movie, but also adults are going to like this. And as an adult myself who does like Mario, it was also a little off-putting, and I couldn't help but find how silly Bowser's hatred of Mario is because a princess likes Mario more than you, really? That's the reason for hating a red fat plumber? Lastly, one of the other little problems I had with the movie is something that I alluded to in my last video on the Mario movie, which is references. Now, in this movie, it kind of feels refreshing because although there are points where you just point out and say, oh, look, I remember that. That's something from the game. It doesn't feel on the nose, and it doesn't feel like they're desperately reaching at straws to create a story. What does feel like they're reaching at straws, though, is with the carts. Now, I did mention the Mario Kart scene was awesome, and it is. It's a very fun scene, but you kind of have to step back and ask yourself why they're there, because in the movie, the Kong warriors, the monkeys, the Donkey Kong's people, they use carts as a means of transportation. But then you have to ask yourself, well, why do they use carts? Because in the games, Donkey Kong is a monkey, and he doesn't use carts to travel through the levels. He uses other things like vines or barrels or rhinos or birds or fish, depending on the game in question. I personally was just left wondering, well, why didn't he use a rhino as a means of transportation? That could have been a really nice touch. Or why didn't you use a bird or like barrels? That would have been really silly to watch Mario and Peach get shot through barrels as they travel to Cranky Kong's castle. They could have used carts as like a state of emergency vehicle instead of just a means of transportation. Like, they could have said carts are last resorts against big threats, and so we're going to pull out the carts now and we're going to go fight Bowser. But overall, however, those are just my issues with the film. I genuinely can't find any real reason to hate this movie at all. But besides those issues, they do stick out like a sore thumb, but there's really nothing to hate about the movie. If you set those issues aside, this is a blast. This is a fun movie to watch for the whole family. And I think people, regardless if they're Mario fans or not, are really going to enjoy this movie. So if you have not seen the movie yet, and you made it this far, first of all, what did you do? You just spoiled the movie for yourself. But secondly, if you don't care about spoilers, and I just pumped you up for the movie, go see it. It's fun. It's worth your time. I think you'll really enjoy it. Go see it a second time, 3 times, as many times as you want. It's really an action-packed movie to enjoy. Now, there may be one question that's lingering on your mind as you're watching this. Is the Mario movie better than the Sonic movies? Well, in my opinion, I feel like that's comparing apples to oranges, because the Sonic movies had its good moments, and the Mario movie has its good moments. Sonic may have had references in its movie that may or may not have been on their nose, but they did have live-action voice casting. And so I feel like the comparison, because Mario is like 100% animation. There's no live action whatsoever. And Sonic has elements of live action in it. And I feel like the comparison between the two is just not warranted. I know they're both movies based on video game properties, but the means of displaying those video game movies on the screen is just a little too different for me to make a direct comparison. But anyway, as for the Super Mario Brothers movie, I am happy to give it, on a scale of 1 to 10, a good old clean 7. So yeah, it's a good, fun movie, and I encourage everyone here that is watching this video right now to go see it. Or if you've seen it already, go watch it again. It's worth your time. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. So I think right now I'm just going to go and spend some time on Mario Kart. Dash around on Rainbow Road, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe down below, and I will see you in my next video. Stay tuned, everyone.